Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, doing good, Zero. How are you doing this Monday?
Good, good. I'm excited for this conversation.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good time. Always enjoy chatting with the Theopetra folks. You guys are always building away.
Let's see if we could get Spartan up. Uh, Binaya, how's it going?
Hey Zero, good. How are you? How's everybody doing?
Good, good. Thanks for joining today here.
Absolutely excited to be here.
Were we able to get Spartan to come up, or
Let me see, inviting him now. Sometimes when you invite, it gets weird. Ah, there he goes.
Hey,
Hey,
hey guys.
Spartan, how are you,
Hey, good.
buddy?
How you guys doing? Can you hear me all right?
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we
Awesome.
can.
Hey,
Man, it's been a long time, brother.
hey Spartan, how are you?
Hey, what's up? And I good to see everybody on here. Yeah, it's been a little bit.
Yeah.
I was uh
Yeah,
I
it
was
has.
just talking to Mel. He's I think he's just grabbing a quick coffee. He'll be on.
Oh yeah, got to get a. It's probably a nice iced coffee this time
Yeah.
of night.
Yeah, especially he's West Coast. The weather's a little better.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, there he
oh
is.
yeah.
There's Mel.
Let's bring him up.
Bring the man up.
Oh
Hey,
yeah.
hey, while we
Okay.
wait for everybody to come on board, I'd like to bring our attention to um, certain one thing that I'd like to share with everybody, if that's okay with Zero and everybody.
Yeah, please, man.
Okay, I was talking about this with Zero and Spartan on the private message earlier. Um, I'm a hotelier in San Francisco and data scientist in training. I have a guest, and he is a 22-year Marine veteran, and we've talked about a bunch of stuff, and you know how he's been trying to get his disability benefits since 2011, and how he's been moving around system and not being able to get that benefits that he deserves from his service. So, actually, this was the second time he came and stayed with us here, and I met him first time a couple months ago. And at the time, I had made a Twitter post regarding an idea to set up like a donation fund of some sort, where every 50 stacks or whatnot, collected would be donated, per night for a veteran to stay at the hotels or whatnot. So with that spirit, I would like to introduce Mark. Um, he's here. I'd like to give you my space, talk about him and what he wants to share with us. So I'd like to honor his service and thank him for his service, um, and so I'd like to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to bring Mark's story and become that part of our story, Stacks and Theopetra, and what all of us are trying to do. Here's Mark.
Simplify.
Hey, Semper Fi, Mark. Thanks for your service.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for your service, sir.
thank you.
So, the gentleman that just spoke uh, knows me very well. I'm a Marine. I'm one of Oliver North's 5th Marines. And I'm honorably discharged, but I've been running into a lot of barriers. And so I don't have family or anything. And I just gave the gentleman that you were just speaking to, my last $100 for a room for another night. So I got tonight and tomorrow night. And I just want to tell you guys that thank you for even talking to me. I love you guys.
Thank you, guys. If you want to help Mark, if you can go to my profile and there's a tweet I pinned from a couple months ago. There's .btc domain name. You can donate this tax to help, and I'll make sure that the funds go to help Mark directly, and there'll be a proof of that. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Binaya, hey,
Hey,
Mark,
hey,
thank you, brother. Hey, we're with you, man, and we will not leave you behind here. We'll get the contact info from Binaya, and we'll do some type of private. We'll make sure you're taken care of. And I'm in contact with Binaya on the side here. And like I said, keep your head up, and we'll make sure you're taken care of.
Roger that.
Hey, Mark, thanks so much for your service. And I do want to say Zero Authority is going to do what we can too, because first and foremost, this community matters to us. And what we're all doing here, we do it because we want to help people. And I can't see any better use to help you in your time of need. And also, it shows that the community is real, and we actually believe what we say and we stand by what we say. So thanks so much. Thank
Can
you,
I say,
Benaya, and thank you, Mark, for talking about this today.
Mark is saying he wants to say something.
I just want you guys to know I ain't no saint, but I'm a good man.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your service, Mark. We'll definitely do what we can on our end as well, and I'll kind of touch base with Spartan here too, and we'll definitely see what we can do on our end.
Appreciate you guys.
So with that being said, that was awesome. Thanks, Benaya. Mel, hey, good morning, good evening. Well, I heard you're on the West Coast, so good evening here. Thanks so much for joining here today.
Yes, likewise. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here, Mel and Spartan.
Yeah, no, this is super cool. I've been stacked since around the mainnet launch, and it's really cool just kind of seeing the ecosystem kind of evolve and mature. I remember on the earlier calls, it was like 3 devs, and I remember Philip from like Arcadiku. It was super small, and it's fascinating seeing all these new community members just kind of jump in, and podcasts evolve and content and stuff like that as well. So this is super cool.
Yeah, us too, because we've been here a while too, and even everyone in the audience, if you guys want to know more, please check out Theopetra Twitter. Look at Zero Authority, our Twitter too. We also have Discord. I know Theo has an active Discord too, and there's a lot of activity going on. So you're doxxed and you're an actual person. So how does that feel?
It's it's definitely weird, man. I tried to do content for about a year and a half ago, and I don't have a ton of followers, but it was, even from what I did have, I mean, people were calling me on my personal phone and reaching out to like my girlfriend, kind of asking where I was, and it just got weird. So the Anon lifestyle is definitely the way to go, but I realize that to build in real estate, you probably need to be doxxed. So it's still kind of acclimating, but nothing we can't handle. That's for sure. I definitely can't go on political rampages anymore on Twitter. So like my team is like, oh, don't.
Oh man, that's awesome. I just wanted to open with that because I remember the first conversations. I was like, and talking to Spartan and Hodl, and they were saying, well, Anon is building this cool thing, and I was like, Anon. Well, who is it? Well, you'll know who he is later. So here you are, man. So this is so awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm super pumped to be here, and it's actually really cool to just be with the Stacks crowd, because I think they'll have a lot more appreciation for what we were building. I actually just sent over the paper here to Hodl, and he kind of read over it a few days ago. So it's really cool to kind of be in this crowd.
That's awesome. So there's been a lot of development since you guys have you've guys been in touch with the community. You guys launched the NFT to crowdfund and bootstrap the network here. Where are you guys today? I know you guys have your YouTube up and running now too, so that's so awesome to see, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, as of right now, we're targeted to launch a secondary asset in July. We're going to call it REIT, REAT. Theopetra itself will be launching most likely either late May or early June. And the original kind of iteration of Theopetra, we were kind of considering, we'll just have one asset, and this one entity will kind of own all the real estate, and we'll just kind of have it all under one roof. And just from the legal feedback we've received, is pretty much, the legal feedback was pretty much, are you fucking crazy? They're like, you want to raise money from a token and buy real estate with one entity? It was just too much in one. And the best thing that you could possibly do in crypto itself is obviously, first protect yourself on the legal front. So what we're gonna do is the Stacks one, mainly, and the reason we chose Stacks was a couple of reasons. I'm first and foremost, I'm a huge fan of the Stacks ecosystem and what they're doing. But more importantly, the legal clarification it did have, as far as how POX works and everything like that too, it gave us a lot more confidence to actually build with Stacks over any other chain. And especially proof of transfer, I think it's a very elegant way of transferring value and actually contributing back to the ecosystem without directly giving people money. There's still a random component in there that I think is, honestly, I think Stacks is the only chain you can actually bring real estate on as of now. Just from the conversations I've had with legal, I think Stacks is the only ecosystem to realistically actually bring that on chain.
For those who don't know in the audience, just give us a reminder, why real estate? Why are you solving this problem? And I'll admit, I really, one of the things that I love about Stacks is we go after the hard things. So Xchain is developing fertility data to store on the blockchain, not the actual health data, but actual just the transaction data. And obviously Citycoin's going after municipalities. We have Theopetra now going after real estate. So Mel, why real estate? Why do you want to solve this problem?
Yeah, so to give you some context on why I kind of started building this space to begin with, I've been fortunate enough to do pretty decent as far as just real estate sales and kind of scaling up in the real estate industry. When I finally started to get a look behind the curtain as far as how real estate funds work and what does that environment look like, I'll just say that I was a little underwhelmed. It just wasn't what I was kind of expecting. So the problem here that I'm really trying to solve, and the way we're going to display our case study is, can you buy a real estate property without increasing rents more than 1% a year? Meaning it's pretty much almost like rent control. The rent increases are very, very slow. And that entire time, can you still outperform the number one real estate firm, right? Like, can you still outperform without increasing rents? And I think if we can prove that model out, I think we might have something pretty interesting on our hands. And that's essentially the solution that we're solving for is, can you turn it into affordable housing, or can you turn any property into affordable housing and without really increasing rents, still outperform all these other firms in the area that their entire business model is only increasing rents, right? And that's the problem I've been kind of fascinated with for about the last year.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear, because I'm sure all of us have some experience where we see, either if we're living in apartments, we're at that point in our lifestyle or whatnot, that you might move into a place and it's all about quick fixes, how they can increase valuations and how they can raise rents. Sometimes that's the whole business model, right? They go in, it has low rents, they raise the rents, maybe they do a small update, and all of a sudden they can then sell it for quite a bit more money, and the renters are left kind of holding the bag, right? So and it's with all the things we see going on in the world, it's a problem to solve, right? Like, I think you guys started out talking about how living and having your own place to stay is one of the essential needs of human life, right? So
oh yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy what's going on. And these real estate firms, their entire business model is actually exactly what you said, which is just raising rents. So they essentially, the way it works for the people that are not familiar, you buy a building, and the way that building is judged is pretty much by the yield that it kind of puts off. The entire business model is quite literally, I need to buy this building and find ways to justify a rent increase or just flat out increase it, right? And essentially what they'll do is maybe paint the building or change the countertops and kind of paint the walls and just start slowly cranking up the rents, and then from there exit the building within 3 to 5 years to the next person who's going to do the same thing essentially, right? So I don't think that's scalable forever, and that's a big reason why I think now is a good time to kind of jump into this model. And usually what I tell everyone too is, by no means are we Mother Teresa or anything like that either. This is a very profitable problem to kind of solve for. So I also don't want to make landlords seem like evil monsters or anything like that. I've been on both sides of the coin where I've been a tenant and a landlord, but it's definitely a problem. And right now the only solution that kind of comes in is the government has to step in and either do what's called rent control, which is they essentially come in and tell the landlords there's no more rent increases, just like a flat out blanket statement. And this is not too good of an idea, just because if you slow down rents, which is one of the largest portions of our GDP, that money has to come from somewhere, and it's going to most likely come from U.S. taxpayers again, right? So it's kind of like the middle class is kind of left holding the bag again. Or B, they could give people stimulus checks, which is also kind of proposed. So it's kind of like the government's kind of backed into a really interesting corner here, where there's really no other solution. And essentially, what we're doing is to give some context in the project, we're essentially buying a building in our nonprofit entity on REIT on Stacks, and all we're really doing is we're just simply converting that cash flow, that US dollars, into Stacks and just remining our asset again. So we're essentially just kind of eliminating the landlord, taking Stacks, and just remining our asset, which is effectively sending it back to stackers and our wallet as well, kind of refunding us. And over time, that just kind of plugs back in, and it just gets recycled until the system just keeps scaling. So that was our kind of way of plugging back in and taking out the landlord out of the equation.
If this works, what does the future look like? Because I've been so fascinated in it, and I bought 2 of the NFTs too, because I really believe in this can fundamentally, like what Citycoins is doing now, just like where cities may not even have to tax their citizens. Can you tell us some of the implications of this?
Yeah, so my entire thesis here is, I would argue that first and foremost, from I guess you could say store of value perspective, right? So Bitcoin is by far the hardest store of value that I think exists, and real estate is as well, right? Like those are the 2 hardest stores of value that you probably have in human history. It's money, and it's also a dire need, which is land and property. So I would say where it actually creates a lot more impact would be bringing this on Stacks. Just puts it, I think, where just it naturally belongs, which is right above the hardest digital assets. And essentially, what we're trying to become is almost like a foundational layer to the entire Stacks ecosystem, where as Stacks grows, the beauty of commercial real estate is it provides a lot of predictable yields in the Stacks ecosystem, right? Like we don't forever only have to always mine our asset. It could be other partners and kind of plug in. And I think we could almost act as like a foundational layer to Stacks as a composable financial system of Stacks, right? So the first layer is typically real estate in any economy. And this is essentially, why we wanted to rush and, kind of jump into the market so fast is if you can solve that layer, everything else should be kind of building on top of that, right? And I think that's where I think the future of the Stacks asset kind of goes. But as far as the future of real estate, I mean, I really don't see landlords always. I see landlords getting disrupted in a very massive way here, where right now, essentially what landlords are is they're chasing yield, right? It's very similar to DeFi, where they buy a property, they chase that yield, exit the building, and buy the next one. So it's kind of like yield chasing, and you've seen it already happen in DeFi, where yields kind of die down, and this is already happening in the real world. It just takes a lot longer. For example, in California, the average yield is 3.5%, 2.5 to about 3.5. It's painfully low. So it's already happening. And I think the future of real estate itself is going to be a future without landlords, essentially. I think it's going to be a lot more capital efficient, where everyone essentially becomes a landlord, not just a singular entity, from there.
No, that's well said. It reminds me too. Eventually, we'll live in a world where a lot of these central entities are just a DAO. So it sounds like uh, what are the two entities that you guys are splitting into now, and what will the actual NFT, was the NFT just to bootstrap the network? Does it have any utility going forward?
Absolutely. So as far as the entities themselves, so the easiest way to frame it is think about all of the real estate itself sitting within the REIT entity as a nonprofit on Stacks. And the way we're going to have Theopetra set up is Theopetra is just going to be a really, really large miner, essentially. It's going to be a large Stacks miner. And the way it's going to essentially work is people are going to essentially bond in, very similar to Olympus. They're going to essentially give us their token in exchange for Theo. And we're going to go in and start actually mining that asset, right? So think about Theo as a very large, Stacks and REIT miner into the Stacks ecosystem, except it's just based on ETH, right? That's the main difference. And then, of course, the real estate itself, that entity, the nonprofit, is sitting on the Stacks chain. So think about Theo as just pretty much like one really big miner, as far as that goes. As far as the actual NFT, there's definitely going to be quite a bit of utility. This year, we're going to keep it pretty simple. We just want to buy one building, and then we want to sell out one unit out of this building, which is just going to be, let's just say we buy in Miami. Let's just say it's like a 30-unit building. Just one of those units, we'll sell it off as our mortgage product, the SRH. We want to kind of test out the market demand, kind of test out the utility, make sure the customer experience is good. Once we can kind of prove that out, then we're going to go into a scaling solution and actually start kind of scaling those, that entity a little bit more. So we're kind of tackling two problems almost, where one is rent, and then the other one is going to be, actual home ownership and mortgages, and making that a little bit easier.
Yeah, I had a question. I imagine some folks in the audience, they're probably curious too, that so one of the coins that represents one entity is going to be on Stacks, and one of them is going to be on Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
The Ethereum is the Theopetra. That's going to be the recurring miner into the Stacks coin that you guys have. Is the setup so that folks on Ethereum that might not be super aware of how Stacks works, that they have an easy way to plug and play into the system? Or I was curious of the thoughts on the design.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. So to participate in the REIT into the Stacks entity, you could do one of three things, right? You can go in and mine it yourself, which is arguably a little bit more kind of complicated for some users. Number two, you could use Theopetra, Theopetra partner as well, if you wanted to stay within the Stacks ecosystem. Or number three, you can just simply go into Theo, buy the Theo token, and stake it, right? Those are kind of your three options. With the Theo token, the main difference is going to be, we're going to take that yield that we're generating on Stacks, we're going to convert it back into ETH, and you'll just gain an ETH yield. So obviously everything here is denominated into the ETH ecosystem. So the benefit for the ETH holders in Theo is going to be the yield that we're kind of aiming for is more than an Ethereum validator. That's kind of the benchmark we're kind of setting for ourselves. So exactly what you said. Very simply put, it's just Theo is just a miner, and you're just kind of getting a out-of-box solution from the Stacks ecosystem.
Hey guys, and if I can just make a quick comment. At the outset, I think a couple people were asking, why don't we just build on Stacks? Because again, I think most people in here, we love Stacks. We want it to be to succeed, and I think long term, it has I think some of the most massive potential of any protocol or blockchain. But if you really think about the opportunity, I don't even know how many wallets are on Ethereum. I think last time I checked, there's about 600,000 plus active wallets, and a lot of those people don't know about Stacks. So in terms of not only unlocking a lot of that liquidity, right? We're not literally building a bridge, but it's kind of a bridge because we're using a lot of those assets to mine on Stacks. But I can't imagine these people that are bonding in and investing in Theopetra that are not going to be curious or want to see what's happening over in the REIT entity. So I think we're going to be able to onboard thousands of potential new users into the Stacks ecosystem. So I think that's a very positive thing. In terms of how Mel has built this and this multi-chain approach.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's there's different avenues for how folks become aware of how Stacks works, and the more comfortable people can be, especially you guys. You guys are trying to bootstrap this and get this going to purchase real estate. So it's the more people that can be aware of the yields and the benefits that they'll have. You go to where the people are, and then they'll learn about how this works and everything like that, and they'll be exposed to Stacks as well. It's one of the beauties of all of these projects getting built in the Stacks ecosystem. There's different avenues for people to come and learn about what it's all about.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it blows my mind the fact that Stacks is not getting more attention, to be honest with you, because it's when I was underwriting Stacks, when I was kind of looking at it from, just like a financial analysis, I was looking at this thing and I was like, this is a completely risk-free yield in Bitcoin denominated between 7 to 10%. And there's no credit risk. There's no counterparty risk. And essentially it's a yield that hasn't really gotten diluted. Like even when it was peaking at, the $3 mark, I think it was like a few $1 billion market cap, and the yield really hasn't changed, which is really damn crazy, because in DeFi, the biggest challenge is how do you maintain, pretty stable yields? And when projects start getting more popular, the yields just start getting diluted. And I think from a financial perspective, Stacks is probably the most underrated project, I think, in crypto today, to be quite honest with you. Like the actual tokenomics of it are incredibly brilliant. And it's like, ETH gets a lot of credit, I think, but I think Stacks itself might be, at least top 3 in tokenomics in the entire crypto ecosystem, in my opinion.
I think we all agree that we a lot of us all just focus on building, right? And we're not a bunch of moon boys and moon girls, not just hyping projects and protocols up. One of I just sent out a tweet to because I really like I'm earlier I read, it's called The True Definition of Money on your Substack. And at the bottom, you have this really cool graphic of the evolution of money, and it goes from barter system to cryptocurrency, and then the evolution of home ownership. It says primitive ownership, defined boundaries, institution-based deeds, and then real estate on chain. I think that it is where the world is going. That evolution of money, real estate, and other assets, it's happening now.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I could definitely foresee a future where the definition of home ownership itself is dramatically different. Very, very similar to how Bitcoin is making people question what really is the definition of money, and the same thing with what is really the definition of home ownership. And down to its kind of core, it's pretty much I want unlimited rights. I don't want to be screwed with, and B, I want a fixed payment, and I want to just build equity in this thing, right? Like I want to be able to sell it anytime I want and be able to kind of have a fixed payment without fluctuating payment systems or anything like that. So it's very simply put, just human rights and a fixed debt plus equity. So that's essentially what homeownership is, and I could definitely see crypto kind of recreating that in a more synthetic way, and essentially kind of bypassing the traditional government deed. I think people will get over the fact of like, hey, the government's not recognizing this ownership. It's very similar to like Bitcoin. It's still not recognizing Bitcoin as a currency, but we all still treat it as such, right? Like it's still being held as a store of value, and we still kind of call it a currency itself. So I could definitely see home ownership kind of taking the same kind of path in the future for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we're going back to the 4 tiers of the NFT, do you guys have a defined a utility strategy for that, or is there more to come down the road?
Yeah, so the number one utility strategy for it is going to be, for example, this year when we're actually releasing the case study, the number one utility for it is going to be getting premier access. Like it's almost like a fast pass to the actual product itself. And of course, as more are being utilized, we're just kind of burning them over time. So that'll be something that'll be honored forever. I think it'll have a ton more utility once there's more scale in the system and much more units that are being sold. But I would say the number one utility is quite literally just bypassing everyone and just getting that direct access. Especially with this type of home product, the market's pretty hungry. Just from my own anecdotal experience, I mean, people are looking for housing wherever they can. Like homes right now are selling within, you're talking 24 to 48 hours with like 30 plus offers, right? So people are kind of like dying for inventory. They're looking for new options. And I think once we kind of introduce something new, I think there'll be a pretty long waiting list. I mean, even now we have, like over 100 volunteers that are trying to get into this that don't have an NFT. So I do foresee the NFT utility in the future being used, pretty strategically, and also having a decent set amount of value just because it's kind of prioritizing you. Once the NFTs are gone, we're going to just replace that with a token. It'll just be, let's just say we're selling 20 units in Miami and there's 100 people who want to get in. Very simply put, it'll just be, are you qualified? Yes. And then it's just going to be the way we're going to default into who gets it is, who has the most tokens. So it'll just kind of default to who is the earliest in Theo and who has the most tokens. You get it, and we just move on from there.
That's awesome. I was going to ask you guys also about. I know you have another NFT that is for the VIP folks. That I believe that's to identify, of course, you're early in the project and kind of like an early investor contributor. Curious about that, and then also really interested to hear how all of the building is going. I know you have various teams and you guys are making some solid headway too.
Yeah, no, for sure. So the VIP NFT itself, as we have more properties in our ecosystem with mortgages, foreclosures are just going to naturally happen. The number one utility of the VIP NFT is going to be, let's just say there's a foreclosure. It's a property in California. We're going to offer it up to the VIP, NFT holders first. We're going to say, hey guys, there's a property on 123 Main Street going up for foreclosure. Who wants it, right? So it's going to act as a pretty good source of deal flow for investors. Right now investors are paying. I remember I was paying up to $8,000 to $10,000 a month for leads, trying to figure out how to source properties, right? So there's always going to be a think about them like as like alpha groups, but it's within the real estate industry. They also exist there as well, where they're kind of sourcing properties. So this will be a way of offering some more utility. It's a big thank you to our early community. That we can maybe just give them something else that's slightly possibly valuable. As far as utility. And as we grow more assets under management, let's just say for example we own 100 units. We're going to convert one out of every 50 into like a Airbnb type of product. It doesn't cost us anything. It won't really, slow us down or anything like that, but it'll just be another way of just kind of saying thank you to our VIP holders. So, we'll just kind of convert that into an Airbnb type of, short-term rental. And if you own a VIP NFT, you can get access to that up to 3 nights a year, completely on the house, right? So it's just kind of like another way of just kind of saying thank you.
Hey, Occupy, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I find it ironic that you guys are discussing how to use this whole NFT Web3 technology in order to acquire real estate. But I'm listening to you, and as a black woman, I'm walking right now. I'm in Newport Beach. I had to go way out here to use their bank, and there are no people of color that live over here unless they're Asian. Everybody else is white. And you guys are talking about real estate. I don't see how this is gonna be something that's gonna really change the fundamental context of rich white people being in the ownership class and the rest of us being renters. I don't see the liberation from what you're doing. So tell me if I'm just not understanding or if that's just not your intent.
Yeah, great question. Funny enough, I was actually in Newport yesterday. I actually live right by Newport. So
because you're a young rich white guy, of course you live out here. I'm just letting you know, as a black woman, I'm walking around furious. I'm furious.
Sure,
I want to eat these crackers.
Okay. Yeah. So as far as your question regarding the actual ownership, I mean, the number one mission of our entire business model is actually helping out the middle class, right? So this is really kind of targeted
When you say
towards.
middle class, I've got to push you. When you say middle class, what do you mean? Because really, in a world where people are billionaires, the middle is someone who earns 500 million. The rest of us are peasants. And y'all need to stop using middle class for people who are really peasants. If you pay rent and you pay taxes, that's the very definition of a peasant.
Well, this is going to be definitely targeted towards the people that are exactly paying that rent, right? So this is going to be towards more middle class neighborhoods. We're not really interested in holding higher end luxury, on that end as well. So it's going to be mainly targeted towards and removing the landlord out of the system that is quite literally raising these rents and kind of like what you said, kind of redistributing that power, right? So if we buy a building and we stop increasing rents, 5-10% a year, and we start only increasing 1% a year. This by default will actually give that entire building, let's just say it's 100 families, more money to spend in the local economy, more money for their kids' education, and more money to actually just spend and actually have something to actually save up for an actual home, right? So with every building that we buy, we're just simply, in a way, kind of, we are freeing them in a way, right? Like we're kind of removing that loop and that cycle out of it, right? So,
how are y'all different from a mortgage company? You're just another level of deceit to me. I just really,
Well,
I
one
don't see it. I'm trying to see it, but tell me exactly how this is going to help low income people be able to own property. I really want to know.
one thing I do want to add and stress is that all of us here, we're super early, and a, a lot of hedge funds and big money interests, they they have invested somewhat in stacks as the underlying protocol and the STX token. But as far as like Theopetra, Arcadico, or Alex Go and some of the DeFi protocols or just real estate protocols, we're so early. So uh, as far as middle class, I think a lot of us are middle class on this call right now, and these are the experiments that need to happen to open up
Again,
access to
I
people
asked
like
y'all to
us.
define middle class because I gave you a clear definition of middle class. In a world where people make $1 billion, the middle is 500 million, and most people are not nearly at that level. Most of us are peasants. How are you going to help the peasant class? Fuck the middle class too. How are you going to help the peasant class? And a lot of times when y'all say middle class, you mean what young white dudes can afford. I want to know what you're going to do so that a black person can earn a house. Because I ain't heard nothing yet that convinced me that I'm going to be able to buy something under y'all scheme. Keep going.
Well, I'm not white, so I'm actually black. So I totally understand what you mean. Just kind of not having access historically to real estate, to assets, to hard assets. So I totally understand, and that's one of the things that drew me to Stacks is the open access. And Munib, the founder
Method.
of
I'm so
Stacks,
open.
is an
What is
immigrant
the
from
method?
Pakistan.
so I think to answer your question, as far as how do we make access easier to housing, I think that was your question there. The actual down payment and actual
Not
requirements
just
to.
easy, affordable. Not just easy, affordable. Not just easy, affordable.
Correct. Yes. So to make it affordable, you have to have more inventory, right? So the first and foremost, you have to have some sort of criteria to actually get in. As far as underwriting and the actual criteria itself, you can actually get in with 2% down payment, right? Like getting into a home with 2% down payment should not be too difficult, even for the middle class, right? That's definitely
No,
possible.
when you say two
Um,
percent, I live in California. 2% of a house that costs what? 700 million. I mean 700,000 because that's really right now what the mid.
Hey,
That's really what the mid real estate rate is. How do you get 2%
Hey,
of
one
that?
one
Okay.
thing I do want to say, Occupy, that these are some great questions, and please DM me after. We're going to have to. We only have about 20 minutes, and I do apologize, but we're going to have to move on to the other topics because there are some other questions that people will have. But I do understand what you're saying about middle class and affordability, but these are protocols that we are, or Mel and Spartan are developing. But thank you for asking that question. Really appreciate it.
and I think one thing too, I like being as brutally honest as well. All we can really do on our end is essentially kind of lower the barriers of entry, right? And just kind of focus on that end. And 2% down is as low as you could possibly ever pretty much get it. Like this is painfully low, and this is something we might even struggle getting, potential institutions on. It is the actual 2% kind of curve. As far as earning, let's just say it is a $700,000 home. You're talking $14,000. If you spent and you even Ubered for, on the side as a side hustle, $1,000 a month for a year, and a year, let's just say a year and a half, you would actually earn that $14,000. So I would argue that it's hard, but it's not impossible for anyone, right? I don't think that just race itself is necessarily an excuse. I think you can go out and actually find that money, but that's, of course, my opinion there.
Yeah, I think it's fair, and I understand where some of the anger is coming from, because people that, just normal people. There's a lot of normal people in this call right now. We're not billionaires and millionaires sitting around thinking of how to extract money from other folks. We're normal people just like you, but I feel where the anger is coming from, because a lot of people feel like they're looking around at the world and going, "I'm getting left behind," and to be able to work. To be able to try and help people that feel like that is happening, and to try and change the systems in which we have to try and fix that, I completely understand. And I think that's what Theopetra is trying to do. I suggest just taking a little bit of time and reading up on what they're about. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, for sure. And, we can lower the entry, and, we'll of course kind of monitor it, but there's definitely some risk requirements. We definitely, there's no such thing as free in any economy, right? That just kind of doesn't
Hey,
exist.
Mel, really quick, you're not born and raised here either, right?
No, I'm actually I'm a refugee. That was a standard refugee story of, growing up with 14 freaking family members in a house, so by no means was it a, rich white kid growing up in the suburbs. We were splitting toilet paper, so it
Hey,
wasn't,
Mel, why did you guys come over, you and your family?
Yeah, we came over during the Yugoslavian war. So my dad was, like, a quick 2-minute rundown. My dad was a higher level kind of captain inside the Croatian army, and they started burning the house down while we were actually still in it. And then we actually ran out, and they let us escape. But we spent like 3 weeks in the woods, found like a system of buses, went to Germany, came out here, lived in the hood, and slowly kind of built up. And I came out here to start real estate in California, and just kind of built my business that way. So, I'm definitely of the camp that, it's no excuses. You can build up, and you can make it happen for sure.
No, and that's important too, because my dad came to this country and had $20 and didn't have much else, didn't have shit. So, but not to minimize what she was talking about, I think there's a lot of validity to what she was saying. A lot of people feel marginalized. A lot of people feel like it's just hard to get by. A lot of people feel like, you know what, I'm never going to have access to real estate. I'm never going to be able to invest in Bitcoin and get a whole Bitcoin. And I'm not saying that you should. I think you, like me, you should buy a little bit if you can. It's not financial advice. It's just do the best that you can with what you have.
Absolutely. And I mean, I do think that's actually, in all seriousness, a real threat of just home ownership in general, right? Like right now, our generation, the millennial generation, is getting absolutely screwed, where the currency is inflating, housing prices are going up, rental prices are going up, and this is all across stagnant wages, right? So you're almost kind of creating this split between homeowners and tenants that's kind of escaping, essentially. So definitely, I think there's a very, like I said, I'm not Mother Teresa. There's a profitable opportunity to go in and actually mend that kind of gap together a little bit more, as well, and kind of bring down the I guess you could say, the barrier of entry between the two, and kind of almost create a class in between a tenant and a homeowner. It's kind of like a in between, type of layer for sure.
Mel,
Hey, Tom, did you have a question?
yeah, I just wanted to interject. So one thing I have a question on is, what is your experience in the actual traditional mortgage industry?
Yeah, so I'm actually from the residential side, on the real estate side. So I have I have about $100 million in residential sales experience. I've done real estate investing, ran a small, kind of like a family-run firm, and property management. So My experience is mainly predicated on the residential side.
Okay. And then, so I guess another thing on this is one, when you bring up the lack of education to the consumer, wouldn't you feel that there already is an easier entry for consumers to get into a home? However, it's just the fact that they don't know it, because you brought up the 2%. I mean, it's the standard 3% down program starting at 580 FICO score to where a borrower can get a property. It's just a lot of them don't know that.
Yeah, and the challenge there that I'm kind of seeing, and this is kind of being reflected across the nation, is it's very hard to still get a home with an FHA loan, right? Like every single home is selling with multiple offers on the market, especially here, especially in the core markets. You're talking California,
Correct.
Florida, So the minute the real estate agent sees that you're putting down 3%, they're going to say, "Oh, this is great," but we're going to hold off and see if anybody else is also offering. And the
That's
minute
correct.
somebody else submits an offer, you're kind of fighting an uphill battle. So the tooling is there. It's just it's still fairly hard, right? Like to actually kind of break in.
Okay, so then I guess this offer, when you bring up, because that is correct. If you bring in a borrower, let's say at a 580 FICO score FHA, that's correct, where a realtor will, they'll be looking for a more solidified offer. So I guess in a market where there's rarely any inventory, how would a offer using this solidify or be, I guess, valued to the realtor?
Yeah, so if you're buying a traditional home product, such as a single family home or a condo, we're going to actually buy it an all cash offer first, and then convert it there into our ownership structure. For kind of after the purchase is done. As far as other inventory that we can introduce to the market would be, for example, with this type of ownership structure, you could actually now buy a apartment unit for the first time, for example, right, and actually kind of fractionalize ownership in a different way. So for the first time, you could actually own it. Let's just say you want to own your apartment, or if you want to buy a hotel room, or if you want to buy a mother-in-law suite. It's kind of fractionalizing the ownership and adding a little bit more inventory to the market that's just traditionally not available, right? So that's definitely going to be a part of our case study. Is there even a market out there? Would people want to buy their apartment? And to me, when you look at an apartment and you look at a condo, it's the exact same lifestyle. It's just a matter of definition by the government of this one is approved for housing and this one is a commercial property, right? So that's going to be the entire point of our case study is, can we buy an apartment and sell one of the units, and is there a market on the other end of that? And that'll be the actual entire fascinating part of Theo, is seeing how that market unfolds and if there is any market demand on that end. But if there is, I mean, you look at hotels here, for example, in California, hotel rooms from, studio apartments are really not that much different, but you're talking a cost basis for an apartment, or for like a hotel room, is 150 to 200K. Meanwhile, a studio apartment could run you between 350 to 450. It's just a matter of definition by the government and, lifestyle, So I think that's going to be the interesting thing that we're going to kind of test out with this model as well.
And what about home equity? So I guess would the consumer's equity increase with the home values increasing, or is that not something that they receive a benefit of?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is they're actually going to gain home equity and also gain amortization, just like a standard kind of loan product would be. It's not being classified as a traditional mortgage. It's going to be more of like a, think about it like a payment plan. But we're essentially recreating every part of that process as far as amortization, equity, et cetera. It's just being bundled in a different way for the institutional debt owners.
And is it non-QM?
Correct.
Understood. All right, thank you.
Hey, that was awesome. Thanks, Tom. Hey, Mel. So we're almost at time here. So why don't we wrap up and please tell people how they can participate both on the Ethereum side, on the Stack side, and then what are the next steps if they want to get more information, get involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So Read itself is going to be launching on the Stacks chain. If you want to get involved when that launches, kind of like what I mentioned, is you can mine it yourself. You could also get in touch with Civetta. They'll assist you as well. Civetta Mining, we'll have the links there. Or B, lastly, you could just whitelist into Theo, and we can kind of handle all of that for you as well. So those will be kind of like the actual participation. And as far as everything, you can definitely check in on the Theopetra Labs Twitter. There'll be some more details there as well. And the official white paper is going to release within the next 4 to 5 weeks or so. And we'll have everything outlined there, and what I believe is the solution to what might be what we're going to actually release what I think is a solution to the housing crisis, and that's where we're going to kind of name our white paper itself. So that should be the within the next 4 to 5 weeks or so.
Awesome. Spartan, any final words here? Huddle?
No, hey, I think that about does it. I appreciate. First, I want to give a shout out to Zero Authority. I mean, I think you guys are one of the first group that I connected with when I came to Stacks, and I think Zero, you helped me make you taught me how to make my first video, my first piece of content, which is absolutely terrible. But no, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. Over at Zero Authority, I think that's that's going to be. I mean, it's already a huge value add in the Stacks ecosystem, and I definitely see ways that we'll be able to hopefully partner with you guys for the long haul. Theopetra and Zero Authority with the content hub you're creating and the many other innovations you guys come up with.
Thanks so much, Spartan. We really appreciate you, brother. Hey, we're just so thankful that we can partner with you, Mel, and I was just telling Huddle and Kirk the other day, I would love for us to probably one of the events in Miami or Austin, if we all get together, I bet you, dude, we'd have so many funny stories of how we all first started.
Absolutely, for sure. For sure.
I think the Stacks isn't the Stacks meetup in conjunction with the Bitcoin conference coming up. It's in a month, right?
Yeah, I think it's coming up soon.
Yeah, I won't be there this year, but I'm committing next year. Maybe we'll all come down and meet up for the Stacks convention.
Yeah, I'd love that, a Stack summit, and we'll have to get a Zero Authority and Theo summit going too.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Hey, well, I'm so glad what you guys are doing, and it's not a perfect solution for everyone, but it is. We have to start somewhere, and also Zero Authority too. If people want to join our Discord, join our DAO, we want people to get involved. City Coiner, we see you guys out there too. Get involved with cities and with City Coin and Miami Coin and New York Coin. There's multiple ways to get in touch with all of us here. So don't hesitate. Reach out if you have questions. That's the best way we learn and we help other people learn. So I'm just so glad that we did this today. Thanks, Spartan and Mel and Huddle. Appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time, and definitely happy to hop on again and give you guys some updates and everything like that as well.
Yeah, would love to. And yeah, I appreciate the first look at the some of the documents you sent over, Mel. Was really interesting, and I really am impressed with what all is being built. It's really I think it's gonna be something that's game changing. So I do hope so. So appreciate that, and really look forward to helping out in any way I can, and just being a part of the process.
Absolutely. Appreciate the kind words, and yeah, definitely looking forward to it. And I hope you guys are surviving the slight little bear market here. So hope everybody's doing okay.
It's okay. I don't have the sell button, so it's all good.
Hey, and I see Glass Cloud too. Last time he came on, man, he has a deep technical knowledge. So next time you come on, Mel and Spartan, you guys got to bring Glass Cloud up to you.
For sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Definitely happy to. And, he lives in a house with no windows, so we definitely bring him in here. It's always fun making fun of a guy who can't fight back right now.
He can't defend himself.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, he's gonna be pissed.
Oh man. Well, hey, thanks so much, everyone. You guys take care.
Cool.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a good one, guys.
See you guys.
Zero Authority is a community of people who believe in open source and permissionless systems. Remember why you started.